I was raised in Jamaica for the first part of my life up till the age of 14 with my mom and my stepfather. I came to England in 1967 to be with my father and my stepmother, and they raised me. I went to school in Wembley, and I went to school there. I came to Milton Keynes in 1980. We looked for somewhere in London because we came from Wembley and we wanted to live in Wembley, in the Wembley area. But it became impossible for us to have, we didn't have enough money to live there. And what was happening in those days were that a lot of people were being moved out of London up to Milton Keynes, especially those that were in council houses. And although we wanted to buy a property, it was difficult. So in 1980, we took the decision to come to Milton Keynes. When I first came, I thought it was a forgotten city because the buildings were sparse. There were some in one place and you can go miles and didn't see any other building. For example, we lived in Bradville. Between Bradville and the city centre, a lot of the places weren't built. And so you had to, most times if you didn't have a car, you have to walk a long way to everywhere you wanted to go. And the bus routes were really bad. They weren't good enough, you could 1 hour sometimes, and so it was very difficult. And it was difficult to hold on a job because I had jobs in different areas given to me that I could work at, but I couldn't get to work because I have 2 children. I have to get them to nursery and then get to work. It was very difficult then, but we've seen it develop, and we've seen the bus system and the grid road, and it's a different place now. It was an exciting time because everything was new, but the great thing I remembered about the whole thing of the development of Milton Keynes was everything had its place. So, for example, you couldn't open a certain business in just any area, and I like that because it meant that if you bought your house in a certain area, then you know that in that area you're not going to have a factory with all kind of manufacturing in it. And so I think that I think was one of the things that I felt was really good about the Development Corporation, the way they allocated the space and decided what property could go on what site and how they did that, and they maintain it. Even now, most places you can't put certain businesses on those places because it's preserved. And I love the way they preserve the parkland and those kind of places. That that will be parkland forever, more or less. And so I love that. They were very meticulous about what they put on each site. In the Development Corporation, I remember us developing a place called Warren Farm near Stony, between Stony and Wolverton. I remember, the buildings were listed, and therefore we had to be careful how we developed it. And I remember the joy of seeing it developed and all the challenges that we had with that. I think one of the highlights is seeing Milton Keynes developed. When I came in 1980, lots of places weren't built, but it was good to see the different things, to see the city church, to see the city centre, to see the station, and even right now to see how it's developing and becoming such a beautiful city. But for the church, one of the things I did was I started a women's ministry. In 1998, I started a women's ministry. It was kind of interdenominational ministry, and we had meeting every Tuesday, and we seen sometime 20, 30, 60 women gathered together, and we taught them. And most of the women who had stayed with me from the beginning and continued have developed and become, even in their jobs, not just in church situation, not just in religious situation, but in their job, have become proficient and have become promoted in many areas. So we see them rise up as strong women and women that are equipped and are able to be part of the community and society and to do good work. When I first came to Milton Keynes, we had a lot of National Front people around the north of Milton Keynes, and indeed our home was attacked by people who threw eggs at the windows and at the doors. We then had 3 burglaries in that first home of ours. That didn't deter us, but that encouraged us as West Indian and African mothers to start a youth group for our youth, it's called the Afro-Caribbean Youth Group. And so we started that youth group, and to give our children some form of identity and togetherness. And that youth group was really great, because until now, the youngsters who went to that youth group are still friends. And to my knowledge, I've never known any of them to get in any trouble with the police or anything. They had a sense of belonging. They had people of like-mindedness who they could come to once a week. They could play games. And also, some of the mothers also started a Saturday club where they would help the children to develop in terms of their academic qualification. And so that helped us. That didn't dissuade me from being happy about living in Milton Keynes, because the environment was still great. And after a time, the police came and visited us several times and drove down the road, and that caused the National Front people to move away from us, and we were able to live peaceably until we had the burglaries. And at one stage, we decided that we have to move from that house somewhere else with our children for their protection. I love Milton Keynes. I really love Milton Keynes from the time we came. I love Milton Keynes because where I lived in Wembley, we lived, the experience we had there was a house with another house behind and another house behind. And so when I brought the children here, especially in our first house where the park was just at the side and they could ride their bike in safety, it was just so wonderful. It was a wonderful experience, and people used to come from London to enjoy that experience. I love that about Milton Keynes. I love the leisure centre and all those things that were accessible to us in any estate you live, and the safety of the Red Way. I really, really do love Milton Keynes, and I love the park. You can go anywhere and go into a kind of a wood, Linford Wood. We have a wood in Shenley, and you can be in the middle of the city centre, and within 5-10 minutes you can be like you're in the country. I think that's what's so beautiful about it, and you can walk. It's just, I love the city. I've always loved it, and I love the city centre, everything under one cover. I think Milton Keynes is a beautiful place. I think one of the greatest change that I've seen is the fact that you don't know the people in Milton Keynes. When we first moved, if you go to the city centre, you guarantee you know somebody there. You guarantee you see people around. And even if people didn't know you, because so many new people were moving into Milton Keynes, it meant that people were needing people. They didn't have that many friends. They didn't have many family. So people were a little bit more of a community. They will call to you, how are you, how long have you been here, where do you live, and all that. But now Milton Keynes has become a place where we have had so many new people, and people also, the older people, have developed their own families. So people don't need people as much as they used to need them when they first moved here. And so it's become a place where you don't know as many people, and you don't see as many people that you know now. Of course, those of us who have children, our children are grown up, so we're not in the city that often. We're not around that often. But because of the work I do in the church, I know a lot of people, and there are lots of churches brought here, lots of conferences and things that are enabling people to be stronger and to have a more secure home and to have a better life. So we've seen all of that happening together. So yeah, it's a much better, it's developing, and we just have to keep remembering each other and remember to look after our neighbors. My wish for the younger generation is what we had when we were growing up. We had comradeship, we had friendship, and we had loyalty. And if I have a friend, I wouldn't do anything to them to hurt them. And I think that's what we don't have, that comradeship. We don't have covenant friends whereby we are protective towards each other. When we say protective, I don't mean we fight for each other. I mean that we cover each other's back and we communicate with each other, making sure that each of us are walking in the right direction. Obviously, in our days, younger people did do wrong. We can't say we were perfect, but at least there was a more of a community spirit and a family environment that I'd like to see again, where there's respect for the parents, where there's respect for each other, not just parents and adults, but there will be respect for each other and honoring each other, preferring each other. We used to like to see each other rise up. We used to like to see each other being promoted. We used to like to see the good of each other. And it seems to be in this society right now, we're not having that. We're having that, thy man, look after thyself. And I would like to see young people go back to where we had youth club, where we had things for them to do and to do together and do corporately.